I will say I think the same kind of approach applies to how you approach striking as well. Because I know like with me and Dave Mazzagatti, like since we're training a lot more, he's much more of a traditionalist with like pure Muay Thai. And like for me, I have that good blend of Muay Thai, Taekwondo, and boxing a little bit. And I know that's one thing that both of you share. And this is kind of one where I wanted to mention like Master Chan. It seems like both of you speak like in very high regards of him. Because I think Dave Mazzagatti, I think you were saying your dad worked out with like Master Chan before, correct? Like back in
Yeah,
Thailand or when he was first coming out to the States.
he worked with Master Chan here in Vegas.
Okay, that's what's
Um,
up, bro.
Not exactly sure what years that was in. I'd have to ask him about that, but yeah, he talks about Master Chan quite a bit, and Master Toddy as well.
So, like the kind of lineage with that is Master Toddy used to own a gym out here. Master Chan was under Master Toddy. So
Yeah,
at that gym, Master Toddy taught. Master Chan did a lot of privates. And your pops probably could attest. He didn't know that much English, so you had to really like become intimate with him to kind of learn
yeah,
what the heck they were saying to you. But
yeah. And
that's
you kind of do with Thai people.
100%.
Yeah,
But they are some of the best in Vegas. I was saying it in the country when Master Toddy was here.
Yeah. And even my one of my Muay Thai instructors, Jason, you remember him from Fight Capital. Yeah, he's a student of Master Toddy as well.
Andrada, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Now it
that's
has a
my
gym.
guy.
Andrada Muay Thai, working with
Hmm.
Shevchenko now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're a
Well, one
good dude,
thing.
bro.
Oh yeah, real great instructor. Like so I want to make a quick pivot. So I wanted to ask kind of each of you like a kind of personal question. Um, by me knowing you and knowing like your backgrounds and everything. So like I don't know who I should pick on first. Is there any volunteers?
I'll go.
Pick on me, bro.
Yeah.
Chris beat you to it. So I'll go Chris then
It's
Dave
all
Joy.
good.
So okay, so Chris. So like now that you're a family man, it's like how has martial arts kind of contributed to your view of being like the father slash like the protector of the family? Like is that something that martial arts has kind of brought into your life to make you build that inherent like confidence or kind of contribute towards you being like a father in any way?
I think what it did is just kind of make me a little harder on what I expect from them. Being as the girls, my two oldest girls, they're training. The little one, she is still too young to really grasp it. But my oldest one has been in and out for a year and a half. So whenever she learns something, I bring her here. I'm like, all right, let's practice it. Just try to do something. Like it's not going to work. Let's do this. So in that aspect, what I expect from them is to all to train either, for me, the base is the four pillars to me, in my opinion, is jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, and boxing. Like that, at one point, the kids are all training in one of the four. Um, I feel like those are the four. If you're a modern martial artist, those are the ones that you need to be either in or starting to learn. So in terms of the protector, jiu-jitsu definitely. Um, my original coach, Henry, he was one of like David must maybe have run into him in '09 because I think he was still either with John Lewis because that was one of his students before. But one of the things when I first started training is once you get to a blue belt, more than 90% of regular people out there. And then once you go beyond, it's even more and more. So to me, it's just, I am never afraid of a physical altercation, but I never want to be in it. So for me, it made me more confident that if something happened, I could handle myself. Of course, there's times where that's not going to help you, which is where you have to John Wick it and have to do other means to protect yourself, But yeah, in terms of for me, jujitsu, just more confident, more knowing that at the end of the day, something happens, you don't stress about it as much because you're going to be able to protect them. It's more for my girls. It's made me more aware of how important it is for them to learn it. So my classmates, my teammates, I've had Her name's Skylar. She's a buck 15, and if I'm not on my A game, she's destroying me. So that's one of the reasons for me that once I started, I was like, yeah, man, I can be the protector all I want, but you guys are doing this to protect yourselves. So I think it makes a big impact on, in my opinion, the male ego. Because I know for me, it very much has leveled me out and shown me, like, if you don't train, you're going to go out there and think you're Billy Badass. If you've trained, and I'm pretty sure David can attest to this, you're going to run into guys who think they've watched one video on YouTube and now they're ready to rock. And then when they find someone that's actually trained and is training, it's like you're more than likely like, dude, just chill out, relax. But if they want to escalate it, that's when you know you're already, all right, I got you, and end it quickly. But that for me is one of the aspects that comes in handy when you know, like, jiu-jitsu, boxing, Muay Thai, wrestling, is when you get one of those guys who never trained, you know if it comes down to it, it's going to be over in a minute.
Okay. One bonus question I have with that, and anyone could chime in on this too. So knowing that more and more kids are kind of learning like martial arts early on, do you think that's just as beneficial? Do you think it's also detrimental just as it is beneficial? Because there are videos where like kids go into high schools and, you know, they'll still get into like the little altercation, but now you do have these little trained individuals going against normal high schoolers who've never been exposed. So what is because as we have kind of mentioned too, like being bullied and stuff, like when we're younger, we didn't really have to worry about that threat of being bullied by actual mixed martial artists as well, because like I think it comes with you know, like the typical Spider-Man quote, with every power comes great responsibility. Hate to be that guy, but I had to. But it's like, how do we ensure that individuals are going to be using it correctly and not abusing it? You know, and anyone could chime in on that one.
Bro, I think I would say my opinion is like it's almost like gun law. Yeah, I mean, you go to like Texas, you rarely see anybody get shot because everybody has guns. You know, so I look at it the same way. When you teach a kid martial arts, you don't just teach them how to beat people up. You teach them how to control themselves. You teach them how to de-escalate situations. You teach them how to do a lot of those different things. And yeah, you'll have bullies sometimes, and that might be a perfect storm where you get one big buff bully that knows martial arts that is out of control. You know, and society has to deal with those type of people, but they're rare. For the most part, it's going to help the smaller people that can't defend themselves, even the playing field, so they don't feel powerless.
Okay, yeah, so overall, it's kind of like David shortening that gap. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, it comes to a point where eventually all kids are trained. You'll get that outlier, of course. It's just that big dick-headed kid. But if everyone knows how to train, everyone's trained, you'll have a lot less of that escalation.
Okay.
And I think eventually that one dickhead kid is going to end up picking a fight with somebody who's far superior at martial arts than he is.
So it's almost like we're kind of hoping for that turn point to happen.
Always somebody that's better than them. You know, it doesn't matter how good you are at martial arts. You're always going to confront somebody that's going to be ultimately much better than you.
True. That's true.
And I think martial arts has a way of, one way or another, balance is going to be found.
Okay, I like that. Well, let me pivot to Will a little bit too, because this kind of ties into Will's personal question. Because we both talked about being instructors, and I know with you actually work a lot with the kids at the Extreme Couture program. Like, what have you been able to kind of like take away from that experience, and like seeing both the youth come into the same gym with adults practicing and just kind of getting better at their own particular skills?
It's a good question. Quick point of clarification. So I started helping with the kids class right before I got my blue belt almost 3 years ago. And then when we shut down for COVID, It took me a kind of a long time to actually get back to extreme couture, even after getting the vaccine and stuff like that. So at that point too, you know, my work had pivoted to work from home, and I was training mostly in garages, and I still kind of am. And so I'm actually not helping with kids class now anymore. I showed up like for a quick celeb class not too long ago. It was really great to see the kids again, and I'll stop by like if I'm hitting up like a boxing class in the evening and stuff like that. But I'm not actively helping with kids class instruction anymore. But I did for like almost 3 years. So in terms of you know, stuff that I noticed, like trends or the way that the kids develop and all of that, you know, you said in comparison or alongside adults, and I think it's actually a really interesting thing to look at, which is and this is like an advocation for getting every kid into martial arts, which is kind of what we're talking about, right? When you take like an 8-year-old and you throw him into jiu-jitsu because you saw that he kind of liked to roughhouse, I've never seen a happier little kid than some little kid who just kind of likes to wrestle around a little bit, you know, likes to get physical. And then you put him in an environment where that's all you're doing and all you're learning. I've never seen a happier little kid than kids who like to put their hands on you in the first place. Just because it's fun, you know, not maliciously. And then you go tell them, yeah, go try and, you know, get up off your back, or go try and make sure this kid can't put his chest to your chest, or whatever you say, right? And I think you see that a lot less with adults. Even adults who started jiu-jitsu after wrestling, I don't know. It's just like that little bit of extra spark that kids carry with them into things that they really enjoy. I think that really helped me to fall even more in love with grappling. When you see a little kid who likes being there in the first place, then they learn how to do something new, and then rounds start that day. And like when a little kid hits the move of the day and they're just like beaming about it, you're just like, how can you not be happy? Like
right.
that they're happy about doing the thing you just showed them, and then they tried it. It's such a positive feedback loop. So that was a real big thing for me that like made me want to keep going back to kids class too, because the other aspect of kids class is that they're little kids, and little kids don't always listen, and they, you know, don't always get it, and they can be a lot harder to show stuff to than adults, just because, you know, it's harder to teach them sometimes, and all of that. Behavioral issues, whatever. So yeah, I don't know. Could talk about it a lot, but I think everyone along at least their jiu-jitsu journey, as they progress through belts, I think everyone to get to black belt should at least be able to teach, and I think a lot of people should be made to help teach. If just because I think it gives you a fresh perspective when you have to work with people who don't know what they're doing, and it's like on you to make them get it. And then when you up the ante and they're little kids, I think not only is it a greater challenge, but also it, like it did for me, can help you really become reinvigorated with the sport in the first place. So.
No, I like that. Honestly, I think the move of the day kind of brings me back to like getting that gold star in school too. You know, just that little moment of just, you know, being recognized and showing that they're growing, they're improving. So
Yeah.
And I'd say, like, even if you haven't been doing the instructing recently, the impact that you had on those individuals and like those kids, that's still going to be long lasting. You know, because we actually had a good conversation about that and explaining like you know, some of the feedback you got from both the students as well as the parents, and seeing that kind of brightness that you're kind of instilling into the next generation, I think is something that's very beneficial.
Yeah, when you take the kids to a tournament, you know, even if you're just sitting in the chair yelling, like, keep your hands on the belly, keep your hands on the belly, after they got a takedown and they're stuck in some kid's guard or something like that, you know, you come back and then all the kids like make you cards, and all the parents are like, oh, thanks so much for this weekend. And you're like, damn, dude, like, yeah, all right, yeah, like, okay. You know, like that made me feel amazing. Like that, I still have the cards.
Oh yeah, I love it. See, I think the thing that you've gotten to experience is like in being an instructor that's like right there with them. Because like I think even through like just education, like K through 12, there's not enough instructors that are heavily involved to kind of, you know, give those thumbs up when you need to give those high fives. And I think being in that kind of situation kind of allows you to be there for them. And also, this is on top of them going to school. Like you get to be a fun part of their day after they go through, you know, the fun, not the fun, but the worst part of the day as a kid, not an adult. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll pivot to you, Dave M. Mazagati. So like, what was your experience like training in Thailand, and what are some of the key cultural differences that you've kind of experienced going from over there in actual Thailand and bringing it back over to Western culture? Dave, you might be on mute right now.
No, sorry. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of a loaded question. That's a lot to explain. One of the biggest things over there, I think Muay Thai is it's very spiritual actually. And I think some of the key motives for fighting for Muay Thai fighters in Thailand versus like MMA fighters over here, I think it's pretty different. Another thing, there's no ring girls in Thailand. There's no like sense of glamour in a lot of the matches over there. Like a lot of times when you want to fight, the ref will just raise your hand and then that's it. You just get out of the ring and you go home. There's not like a celebration. There's not you're not gonna celebrate necessarily. It's kind of it's different versus like I feel like over here, it's pretty different. And yeah, Thailand culturally, it's a wickedly different place than here in America.
What would you say, like knowing that we kind of have much more of like a flashy approach in the States, and there's a lot more entertainment behind it? Do you think that takes away from like the purity of the art itself?
Not necessarily. I mean, define the purity of the art.
Wait, say the last part one more time.
Sorry. So you asked if I feel like it takes away the purity of the art, like the flashiness and the entertainment side of things over here. And I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I think you would like define the purity of the art. I think everyone fights ultimately for different reasons. I think just traditionally over there in Thailand, people get in the ring and it's a spiritual journey. Like when you're doing your white crew, when you're dancing, this is it's a humbling thing. I mean, you're on more of like a spiritual path, and this isn't about me getting in the ring. This isn't my ego. I'm not going in here to dominate another human being. It's not your ego that's driving you forward to win a match necessarily. Versus I feel like, and I've never fought over here in the United States, but I just feel like grappling in gyms and sparring with people and going to matches over here, I feel like, a lot of fighters are getting in the ring maybe for their ego or maybe that's what's driving them forward. Like in a Conor McGregor type of sense,
Right.
I just don't feel like, I feel like, you meet a lot of people like Conor McGregor fighting over here in the United States. But I just feel like I've never in a Muay Thai gym ever met someone with some huge ego or someone who is infatuated with himself. It's not something that I ever encountered.
Do you kind of miss like seeing that like on the like even in terms of like the events and everything, seeing how MMA is kind of going more towards like the entertainment route? I feel like maybe like with ONE FC, they kind of preserved it pretty well, but it definitely seemed like the UFC was becoming a little bit more entertainment based.
I'm not upset with that. I think the UFC is going to do what they need to do ultimately as a business. They know how to market their company. They know what's going to get pay-per-view buys, and I think that ultimately the UFC as a promotion and the fighters that are fighting in it will promote whatever is going to get the most ticket sales. I mean, In Thailand, it's just not the same thing. I think that those types of promotions are somewhat frowned upon culturally. That kind of makes sense. And I'm sorry if it doesn't. Like it's just like trying to like sum up a 2.5 year experience and like their culture and what it means. That's pretty hard to put into context.
That makes sense. And can you guys hear me okay? There's a little bit of activity in the background, so I just want to make sure. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear the dog in the background?
What was that?
Can you hear the dog in the background?
A little bit, but not too much. You're good.
Okay.
So Dave Jordan, I have one personal question for you, and then I have one closing out question for everybody. Your question kind of has already been covered. We were talking about like the longevity of you doing like wrestling for such a long time since you were a kid and everything. So I will say, kind of make it vary a little bit from what we already discussed. Like, what have you taken away from that entire experience? Like, what would you say kind of was the main thing that you gathered, like even now as an adult, that wrestling is kind of giving you that most individuals would not have received without going through that kind of process? So we do know that wrestling is one of the more strenuous sports that you can do in high school compared to a lot of the other ones in terms of like, the physicality of it, the making weight process and all of that. So knowing that you've been doing that so consistently throughout your life, what have you been able to take away from it?
I mean, I kind of went over it toward the beginning, with the aspects of learning how to lose, but I guess with wrestling, I would say fighting in general, like, and I'll use it because I was 20 years in wrestling, but 11 years into fighting as well. So I'll just kind of go over everything all at once. I think that
works.
I learned that like sometimes like substance is what makes you win, but substance doesn't always draw. Substance doesn't always make you money, if that makes sense. So when you're going throughout your life, like you have to, and you're going through the fields, various fields, maybe business, whatever, like say marketing, you have a good product. That complete circle for that product has to do with, yes, you have substance, but man, how do I bring people into the door? And it's like a complete circle where I have to have somebody that's great at doing some great instructors, great whatever, but also have to have a great way to promote my brand that's going to bring attention to it, if that makes sense. And over my career, that's something that I learned. You can't be like everybody else. You can't think that just because you're good at something, that's where the buck is. In life, you need the complete circle if you want to be successful. So I think that's one thing that I did learn. It's not just, I got good at what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Now, can you apply that? Okay, now that you apply that, how can I get people to relate to it, if that makes sense? And I've kind of understood that. And, I'm implementing that with, some of the things in my personal life that I'm doing now. But it took me a while to understand that. And I had to, and you can't be sensitive when it comes to yourself. You have to be able to ask like deep questions like, I'm beating everybody up. I'm knocking everybody out. Why haven't I don't know, gotten a shot at UFC yet? Or something like that. You know what I mean? I could be sensitive about it and just be bitter. Or I could be like, okay, well, that dude's not as good as me, but he got a whole country. So he got, 90,000 followers because he has a country, even though he's garbage, So, I kind of found out that that's more of the driving factor of success, what you can market, not necessarily how good you are. Just that circle. That's what I learned.
Okay, I like that. So it definitely gave you additional like business skills on top of just like the physicality and fighting.
Right.
Right hand up, uppercut, knee, knee,
Just got off the clock, just got on my chill. Called up my homie Brent to see what be the deal. What you trying to do? I'm just trying to heal. Hella floated, never bloated's what I'm trying to feel. Hop in the whip and